Our next speaker is going to describe her investigation into end-use markets from a slightly different angle as an employee of a prominent Bay Area city whose decision makers and citizens were curious about where the recyclables their hauler is collecting were going and what was happening to them. Mabel Aoyang is an environmental program manager with Zero Waste Palo Alto. She has over a decade of experience in the sustainability and zero waste industry. Currently, Mabel is implementing the city's deconstruction ordinance, as well as managing the contracts between the city of Palo Alto and their waste hauler and processor, with recent emphasis on domestic processing and traceability of recyclables. Her presentation is entitled Redirecting Recyclables, One City's Journey. Give it up for Mabel.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm going to test this out. Perfect. Great. Again, my name is Mabel Aoyang. I am with Zero Waste Palo Alto. I'm going to jump right into talking about how our city redirected our recyclables in the past few years. City of Palo Alto has a contract with contractor hauler and processor with Green Waste. So I'll be mentioning them a bit because they have been a great help. So we have this question, where do our recyclable goes? I figure everybody in here has thought about this, and we're focusing more about what happened after they leave the MRF. And this is a question that our residents and council has been very interested in. So they gave us some assignments. The council directed us that they want us to share a report that is prepared by Green Waste annually regarding traceability and end use of materials. They want us to work on a contract amendment so then if there's any opportunity, we can quickly jump on that. They also want us to work with other cities to pursue greater accountability of secondary markets. And we'll talk about that a little bit. And most importantly, is to work with other cities to look into opportunity to create new legislations. So in 2019, we amended our contract, collection and processing contract with Green Waste. And as part of that amendment, we included a new requirement where they need to report to us annually what happened to a recycled. So this includes the certification of end use of recyclables and where they go. Basically, we would like them to look into who they sell the materials to, what do they do with it, where do the recycle actually ends up, and what happened to the residues. Unfortunately, the findings has been incomplete in the last 4 years. But what we do know from these reports is that 40% of our material actually do stay in United States, and 60% of them is exported. They're exported to places like Mexico, Thailand, Korea, Vietnam, and a bunch of other cities. Other countries, I'm sorry. But what we still don't know is that where the materials end up. Green Waste try really hard to work with their primary purchasers and to find out these information for us. However, they are mostly material brokers and they don't share information very freely because questions that we are asking for are considered trade secrets. So we are having a hard time to find out. I'm going to have to speed up. So because we don't know where our materials go and what impacts they are making, so we're trying to look for alternatives. And that means doing pilots in the city. So we started in 2021 to compost mixed paper. We work with our processor and hauler and trying to find out if that is something we can do. We brought 10 tons of mixed paper from the clean stream to Z-Best, mix it with shredded, and then mix it with the greens and went through regular composting and curing process. After 14 weeks, we were able to find out that they break down pretty good. It's up to standards. However, it's really costly. And because of SB 1383, there's no compost capacity for us to manage our paper. So we switch focus and ask Greenways if they can help us find domestic recycling processor for us. And very luckily, we found 2 locations, one for mixed paper and one for mixed rigid plastic. Pilot began in April 2022, and we were having a goal that this can extend. And we went to council for a contract amendment. So it's no longer a pilot. We're able to get that program extended till the end of the contract term with Greenways. And now all of our mixed paper and mixed rigid plastic are processed domestically in United States and are made into new products. The contract amendment also included languages that allow us flexibility in the future if any other materials, if opportunities for other materials arise, or maybe a different facility, cheaper or closer to home. So we are really happy that this got approved by council, and I'll say that we are pretty successful in redirecting a good portion of our recyclable from Palo Alto. This is a graph to show our tonnages, looking at exports and domestically processed recyclables. You can see that we're able to flip the tonnages. Instead of keeping only 40% of our recyclables, we're now keeping 60% of our recyclables within United States. So if you remember, council also told us, please work with other cities and look into legislation opportunities. In 2022, Palo Alto co-hosted 3 virtual forums with the city of San Jose, and with the objective to share information, bring awareness about the international shipments of recyclables. We want to see if other jurisdictions have the interest level as same as us to pursue accountability in secondary markets of recyclables, and also hoping to create new legislatures. They are all very well attended, and we have invited different speakers to our forums. We talked about the concern and impact of shipping recyclables internationally. We talked about the potential to increase traceability, tracking recyclables, and also accountability regarding that. We were able to invite processors to share their experience with us on challenges that they face working with international markets and directly with international facilities as well. We were also talking about some actions that we can take immediately, and that includes collaboration with processors and haulers, as well as supporting and creating new legislation. So these are the initial objectives that Palo Alto was hoping to achieve, which is to create legislation that will require tracking and disclosure of the entire flow of materials from the MRF to the final disposition. We want to also use this to create a third-party certification process to verify where our recyclables is sent to, and what happened to it. And lastly, with these ideas together, we hope to spur the domestic recycling market within United States and keep that at home. So we contacted a bunch of entities and jurisdictions trying to get advice and get their interest. Without very strong support from a legislator and regional jurisdiction, I think because we're very busy with 1383, but this is important too. So we decided to pivot into supporting existing California legislation, including AB 881 and SB 54. So then we are participating in the rulemaking process. That way we are still supporting relevant legislation, but these legislation are also paving the path for us to look back into our original focus. So here's just a roundup of what we've been doing. We have had excellent partnership with our processor and hauler, and we are continuing to require the traceability and end-use report from them annually. And with the successful redirecting of recyclings to domestic market, that will only that will continue, and I'm really hoping that we're able to look for outlets for additional material type as well. And we will continue to work on legislation, whether it's supporting existing one, upcoming one, or hopefully we can create something similar to what our initial objectives were. And this is my information. Thank you very much.
I'll just moderate the questions. Take this one. Thank you, Mabel. Very interesting. What are we collecting? Where's it going? All that good stuff. So are there questions in the house for Mabel? There's one over here.
Sure, I'll go. Yes, thank you for your presentation. And I was wondering if you had any insights onto the plastics that were sent to Asia and how much of those were actually being recycled and reused, and how much was ending up in the landfill or environment.
So with the contract requirement, we were really hoping that our processor and haulers were able to give us those answers. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, the material brokers are informational blockers. They don't share information. But we are working with consultants to track it down even more. So we're doing additional research into tracking the shipments. We may not be able to know which facilities the materials are going, but maybe the cities of it. So there's more work to do. I do not know the answer, and I think that's not a lot of people actually know.
Hi, Mabel. Thanks
Hello.
so much for this presentation. When it comes to allocating where materials go to, my experience when I worked with facilities that have materials coming from several different jurisdictions, that allocating or knowing this is the stuff that came from X place versus this is the material that came from Y place, it's virtually impossible. It's an allocation process. So saying 16% of the input came from this place, which meant that 16% of the output came from this place. Am I making sense so far?
You are making sense, and that is how we allocate the tonnage and the capacity that Greenways help us manage.
So one of my favorite questions, or one of the things I would hope that you would ask, is that the MRFs be judged by their efficiency rather than their diversion. And here's what I mean by that. If you dump 1,000 tons of diapers onto that tipping floor, you want all 1,000 tons to go to the landfill. You don't want it anywhere else. But if they dump 1,000 tons of diapers onto that tipping floor, they're not going to sort it. You'd rather they didn't sort it at all. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes allocating and measuring the inputs versus outputs can make facilities not want to sort things at all and miss diversion opportunities. I'm holding forth and I'll stop.
That's the end of your question.
That's it. Okay. Thank you for your comment. And if there's other suggestions, we can talk some more and we can see how we can improve the current system. So I'm open to talking about this some more. Thank you.
If the people have more questions, we have time for more questions.
So I know your Asian markets are a mystery, but those mixed plastics domestically, do you know where those go?
Can you repeat your question? I'm sorry.
The mixed plastics that you're now getting recycled domestically, where do those go? Do you know that?
So our mixed rigid plastic is being sent to Southern California. So there is a facility that our processors are able to secure capacity, and they're actually being made into nurdles. So these two facilities, we want to make sure that not only do they receive our materials, our allocated materials, but also they're making new products within here instead of not knowing where it's going.
And that switch to that processor away from the shipping to Asia, did that have any negative other effect, like more expensive or more work, or I don't know, was it just that was overlooked that you might have somebody domestically?
Yes, it is more expensive from the city point of view. And I think I may have missed one point, but it was on my slide, that our contract amendment not only approved the extension of our pilot, but it also provide additional funding. So we are now able to spend up to $1.2 million a year to pay for additional expense related to the domestic recycling processing.
Thanks.
Thank you. Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. See you at Green Drink.